December 1st, 1805, midnight. Moravia, near Austerlitz. Napoleon Bonaparte stood before the campfire, staring into the flames. Before him, the enemy's fires stretched across the darkness. 85,000, perhaps 90,000 men. The combined armies of Tsar Alexander I of Russia and Emperor Francis II of Austria. In Napoleon's hands, a map of operations. His finger traced the outline of the Pratzen Heights. They will descend from there. What was going through his mind in that moment? The records tell us that weeks before this battle, Napoleon had already conceived a trap. Make the right flank appear weak. 70,000, perhaps 75,000 French troops against 85 to 90,000. Outnumbered. But it would not be numbers that decided this battle. It would be terrain. Napoleon's gaze locked onto a single point on the map, the Pratzen Heights, the hill that overlooked the entire battlefield of Austerlitz. Take that high ground and everything ends. In the dead of night, Napoleon walked among his men. The soldiers recognized their emperor and raised their torches high. Vive l'Empereur! Napoleon stopped. The firelight fell across every face. Faces worn by exhaustion, but their eyes burned with fire. The chronicles of those who came after record that on this night, after his rounds were done, Napoleon spoke these words. "This may be the most beautiful night of my life." He was certain. Tomorrow, history would move. December 2nd, 1805. Before dawn, a thick fog had swallowed the battlefield of Austerlitz. The Pratzen Heights had vanished into the mist. Napoleon knew this fog. The winter mornings of Austerlitz. Every morning, the mist rolled in, and when the sun rose, it would clear. The moment the fog lifted, everything would begin. He checked his watch. Had the coalition begun to move? The coalition moved. The plan of Chief of Staff Weyrother was simple. The French right flank is thin. We encircle it there. In the north, Prince Bagration led the coalition's right wing against the French. In the south, the coalition's main left flank, under Buxhoeveden, began streaming down from the high ground. It was precisely the movement Napoleon had been waiting for. The heights were emptying. Napoleon raised his glass. He peered through the mist. His aide-de-camp's journal records that a faint smile crossed his lips. The fog began to lift. The Pratzen Heights emerged from the haze. The coalition's left flank had already turned south. The high ground stood relatively undefended. In that moment, Napoleon turned to Marshal Soult from his saddle. "How long to reach the summit?" Soult answered. 20 minutes would be more than enough, Your Majesty." Napoleon paused. "Then we wait 15 more, until the troops that had descended from the heights could no longer turn back." The calculation was already complete in his mind. And then Napoleon gave the order. "Soult, advance." 26,000 French soldiers surged toward the heights. The Russian troops that remained on the high ground stared in shock as French forces materialized from the fog. Panic tore through the coalition's command. Why are the French there? This was the heart of Napoleon's trap. The coalition's left flank had marched south to encircle. In that instant, the center had been left exposed. And into that void, Napoleon drove his men. At the summit of the Pratzen Heights, the eagle standards of France unfurled in the wind. The report reached Tsar Alexander I. "Your Majesty, the Pratzen Heights have fallen. The French are there." Alexander was 28 years old. He had been the one who pushed hardest for this battle. To lead his own army, to crush Napoleon. That had been his dream. But now, that dream was shattering before him. The records tell us that after receiving the news, Alexander did not speak a single word for some time. The heights were lost. Center was lost. The coalition had been split north and south. It should be noted that effective overall command of the coalition rested with Mikhail Kutuzov. But Alexander's relentless interference had stripped Kutuzov's authority to the bone. It is said that Kutuzov had opposed this very plan from the beginning. Napoleon stood on the summit of the heights. The battlefield spread out below him. In the north, Prince Bagration's right wing was still engaged with the French. In the south, the coalition's main force was crashing against the French right flank. And in the center, there was almost nothing. The coalition had been split in two. This was Napoleon's strategy. Make the right flank appear weak. Draw the enemy toward it. Seize the center. Divide, then destroy each part in turn. Manufacture the conditions that make the enemy believe the right flank is exposed. Then, the moment their main force tilts south, strike the center. The lure and the concentration of force, that was the soul of the plan. Now, Napoleon issued two commands. To the north, drive Bagration back. To the south, cut off the coalition's left flank retreat. And from the Pratzen Heights, strike the divided enemy from both sides. The coalition's left flank understood. They were encircled. There was no way out. They were driven toward the marshes and frozen ponds near Sachin, winter in Moravia. Behind them, frozen lakes and marshland. Before them, Napoleon's artillery. The coalition's left flank was pushed into the ponds and wetlands. Napoleon's guns opened fire on the area around the frozen lakes. Some of the fleeing soldiers found themselves on the ice or in the marshes. In his bulletins, Napoleon later proclaimed that thousands drowned. But modern research has shown this massacre on the ice to be largely exaggerated. When the area was drained after the war, what was recovered amounted to only a handful of horses and scattered remnants. Napoleon was a strategist not only on the battlefield, but in the realm of information. He was a pioneer in using the bulletin, the official communiqué, as a media weapon to dramatize his victories. Whatever the truth of the lake, one tactical fact remains unshaken. The coalition's left flank was routed, its cohesion destroyed, its retreat cut off. The battle was decided in roughly half a day from early morning into the afternoon. Casualty estimates vary, but French losses stood at roughly 8,000 to 9,000. The coalition suffered approximately 15,000 killed and wounded, with 11,000 to 12,000 taken prisoner. Total coalition losses are often estimated at 26,000 to 27,000. For every French casualty, 2 to 3 on the coalition side. Military historians frequently regard this as one of the most perfectly executed operations of Napoleon's career. The numbers bore witness to that perfection. Napoleon rode his white horse across the field. His soldiers raised their voices. Vive l'Empereur! And the chronicles record that when Napoleon later spoke of that day, he said, "This was the most beautiful day of my life." 3 emperors had fought. Napoleon Bonaparte, Alexander I, Francis II, 1 victor, Napoleon, 2 defeated emperors. And the map of Europe was redrawn, 8 months after Austerlitz. August 6, 1806. Francis II signed a document. He renounced his title as Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. This defeat proved the decisive blow. Napoleon formed the Confederation of the Rhine, bringing the German principalities under his protection. With the empire's very purpose extinguished, the Holy Roman Empire, which had stood since 962, was driven to dissolution. An empire that had endured for over 800 years ended by a single battle. One day of battle brought 1,000 years of European order to a close. This was the meaning of Austerlitz. Not merely a military victory, a turning point of civilization. What was it that Napoleon truly demonstrated? That wars are won not by numbers, but by terrain and by the human mind. 70,000 to 75,000 against 85,000 to 90,000. But numbers were never the point. Create the conditions that make the enemy believe the right flank is exposed. Then strike the center the moment their main force tilts. The lure, the concentration, and the judgment to seize the moment the enemy moves, without hesitation. Austerlitz remains inscribed in the textbooks of military strategy to this day. In officer schools across the world, it is still studied. And there is one more perspective we must not forget. Napoleon fought not only on the battlefield, but in the battle for information. It was his own bulletins that spread the dramatic legend of the massacre on the ice across the world. The orchestration of victory was itself a part of his strategy. And so, I put this question to you. History speaks only of outcomes. But those who lived it, they did not know the outcome. If you had stood in Alexander I's place, could you have stopped the decision to descend from the Pratzen Heights? And one more question. Napoleon reached the summit of power through perfect strategy and the mastery of information. So why, 9 years later, did he find himself exiled to the island of St. Helena? Why does a perfect victory not guarantee a perfect future? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear them. Thank you for witnessing this moment in history with me. Here on Turning Point History, we explore history's great crossroads, like Austerlitz, through the eyes of the people who lived them. Why did they make the choices they made? History, as you know it, is about to show you a completely different face. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next turning point in history. See you in the next one.